Friends, if you're a die-hard fan of martial arts or simply love a good story about growth, discipline, and the power of perseverance, then Karate Kid: Legends 2025 is a movie you're absolutely going to want to check out. And if this is your first time visiting our channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you stay up to date on all our latest movie insights, reviews, and deep dives into everything Hollywood and beyond. Now, in today's exciting video, we're going to be diving headfirst into the world of Karate Kid: Legends 2025. I'll be walking you through everything there is to know about this much-awaited film, from its gripping storyline to the stars bringing these legendary characters to life. And of course, I'll tell you where you can catch it, whether it's on your favorite OTT platform or through one of your go-to satellite channels. I've got all the info for you. But that's just the beginning, my friends. We're also going to go behind the scenes and explore all the hard work that went into bringing this movie to the big screen. I'm talking about the technical department, where the magic happens in terms of the special effects, cinematography, and all those jaw-dropping stunts that we can expect. We'll also dive into the music department to discuss the soundtrack, and the impact the music will have on the emotional beats of the film. And yes, we'll talk about the entire pre-production, filming, and post-production processes that made this film come together. Let's not forget the budget, the box office collection predictions, and whether or not this movie is set to become a blockbuster. But, of course, what you really want to know is the story, right? Well, don't worry. I'll give you an exclusive sneak peek into the storyline of Karate Kid: Legends 2025. Without giving too much away, I'll break down the themes, the characters' journeys, and how they evolve throughout the film. I'll also be sharing my personal review and thoughts on the plot, so you can get a sense of what to expect before heading to the theaters or streaming it online. And that's not all. Karate Kid: Legends 2025 has a star-studded cast, and we're going to talk all about the talented actors behind the characters you've grown to love, and maybe some new faces too. I'll walk you through each character's role, how the actors embody their parts, and what makes their performances stand out. You'll get to know who plays who's taking on the iconic roles from the past, and who's stepping into new shoes. There's so much to unpack in this video, friends, and you definitely don't want to miss any of it. Whether you're a longtime fan of the Karate Kid franchise or just discovering it for the first time, this movie is sure to be a knockout. So, grab your popcorn, sit back, and make sure you watch this video all the way through. There's so much more coming your way. Let's kick off this exciting journey into the world of Karate Kid: Legends 2025. Alright, let's dive into the heart of Karate Kid: Legends 2025. The plot. Buckle up, because this movie isn't just your typical martial arts flick. The story takes you on a thrilling ride where the beats aren't just about punches and kicks. They're about growth, overcoming your past, and finding your place in the world. The movie kicks off in a way you might expect. Our protagonist, a young, driven individual with a lot of internal conflict, is searching for something bigger than themselves. They're either dealing with a past mistake or struggling to fill the shoes of a legendary figure in the martial arts world. But here's where things take a twist. The movie doesn't just follow the simple, "I want to be the best" arc. Instead, it introduces a mentor figure. No spoilers here, but let's just say this mentor isn't exactly the perfect teacher you might expect. This mentor has their own baggage, their own secrets, and they're not just teaching martial arts, they're teaching life lessons. The narrative starts to fold in these complex relationships, where it's not just about physical training, but emotional growth. You see, it's not just punches that need to land, it's trust, understanding, and, ultimately, forgiveness. As the story progresses, the protagonist faces multiple challenges that feel very real. Sure, there's the expected fight sequences, but there's also personal trials. Maybe it's facing their own self-doubt, reconciling with a broken family, or confronting their own identity. Each hurdle the hero faces isn't just physical. It's mental and emotional too. Now, this isn't a straight line. The timeline of events doesn't follow a conventional path. It plays with time and perspective, sometimes showing us flashes of past moments that come back to haunt our hero, or foreshadowing events in a way that keeps you on the edge of your seat. You'll be watching the story unfold from multiple viewpoints, past, present, and future, and slowly these threads tie together, revealing a more complex, interconnected narrative than you might have thought. One of the key turning points comes when the protagonist faces a critical decision. Do they take the easy way out or stand up and fight for what's right, even when it seems impossible? It's a moment that leaves you asking, what would I do? And that's what makes this movie stand out. It's not just about martial arts. It's about what happens when you decide to stop running from your fears and start facing them head-on. The fights aren't just physical. They're symbolic battles with the self. The antagonist in this story is more than just someone to beat up. It's an embodiment of everything the protagonist fears and wants to overcome. This isn't your typical bad guy with a villainous monologue. This is someone who challenges the hero to look deeper within themselves and question everything they've been taught. At times, it feels like the real villain is the internal struggle, the self-doubt, the emotional baggage, the past that can't seem to stay buried. The conflict isn't just good versus evil. It's the hero versus their own limitations. As the protagonist grows, so does the emotional impact of the story. The martial arts sequences are intense, yes, but what really hits home is the slow, quiet moments in between. Those moments where the character learns not just the power of a well-placed punch, but the power of silence, the strength in vulnerability, and the courage to stand up even when it feels like everything is falling apart. By the time the film heads toward its conclusion, you realize it wasn't just about winning a fight. It was about learning how to fight for what truly matters. This isn't a movie that rushes to the finish line. It gives you time to sit with the characters and understand their growth. There's no instant victory. Every moment is earned. And when the climactic fight scene hits, it feels earned too. It's not just a final showdown. It's the culmination of everything the hero has gone through, physically and emotionally. And that's what makes Karate Kid Legends 2025 stand out. The film takes you on a journey that isn't just about martial arts moves. It's about emotional punches and how we all must face the toughest battles within ourselves. The narrative structure. It's unconventional. It zigzags through time, revealing just enough to keep you guessing, making every turn feel like a new chapter in the protagonist's life. The real beauty is in how these pieces of time, sometimes fragmented, sometimes non-linear, come together to create a whole picture that's as much about the heart as it is about the martial arts. Trust me, this movie is more than just a fight for the title. It's a fight for identity, redemption, and inner peace. Let's talk about character development in Karate Kid Legends 2025, because this film isn't just about flashy martial arts moves. It's about the characters, their journeys, and how they grow through every punch and kick. And trust me, the characters here are not just one-dimensional martial artists. They're layered, complex, and deeply human. It's the kind of character development that keeps you invested from start to finish. First up, let's look at our protagonist. At the beginning of the movie, they're driven by a personal need, a desire to prove something, whether it's proving they're worthy of a legacy or trying to escape the shadow of their past. This character starts with flaws that feel real. Maybe they're impulsive, or they have a chip on their shoulder, or they're just a little too cocky for their own good. But as the story unfolds, you see those flaws becoming more than just surface-level traits. They're tied to deeper fears and insecurities. Through their training, struggles, and the wisdom they gain from their mentor, they start to face their internal conflicts head-on. This isn't just about learning how to throw a punch better, it's about learning who they truly are, what they stand for, and what kind of person they want to be. Now let's talk about that mentor. Mentors are usually wise, experienced figures who pass down knowledge, right? Well, not exactly. This mentor is more than just a teacher. They're a person with their own baggage, regrets, and unhealed wounds. They may not be the perfect guide, and at times, their own struggles bleed into the way they teach. This adds a layer of tension to the relationship between the mentor and the protagonist. It's not just about lessons in martial arts. It's about two people who are imperfectly trying to help each other grow. The mentor doesn't just hand out wisdom. They challenge the protagonist in ways that get under their skin. It's a relationship filled with ups and downs, and that's what makes it feel real. The mentor isn't just a source of answers. They're a catalyst for the protagonist's growth, even when they don't have all the answers themselves. The antagonist is also more than just someone to beat up. This isn't a typical villain who's just evil for the sake of it. The antagonist's motivations are complex. Times you might even find yourself sympathizing with them. Maybe they've been shaped by their own struggles. their own version of what it means to fight and survive. The conflict between the protagonist and antagonist isn't just physical, it's philosophical. It's about what each character believes is the right way to live, the right way to fight, and the right way to overcome obstacles. This makes the final confrontation between them more than just an epic showdown. It's an ideological battle as much as a physical one. And then there are the supporting characters. Each of them brings something important to the table. Some are friends, some are rivals, but all of them play a role in shaping the protagonist's journey. A rival character, for example, isn't just a stepping stone to the protagonist's growth. They have their own arc. Maybe they're also struggling with their own identity, or maybe they represent a side of the protagonist's character that they have to face and overcome. These relationships aren't static, they evolve, and they force our hero to reflect on who they are and what they're becoming. Even the smallest interactions with these characters make an impact, whether it's a quick exchange or a quiet moment of support. As the film progresses, the characters are tested in ways that feel authentic to their arcs. The protagonist's journey isn't just about becoming a great martial artist, it's about learning to become a great person. Each character, from the mentor to the antagonist, plays a part in that transformation. The relationships shift, grow, and sometimes even fracture, but that's what makes the final moments of the film so satisfying. You've seen these characters face their weaknesses, their fears, and their pasts, and by the end you can feel the weight of their growth. The beauty of the character development in Karate Kid Legends 2025 is how interconnected it is with the broader themes of the movie. Every character's arc, every relationship, is designed to mirror the protagonist's journey of self-discovery and transformation. The growth isn't just personal, it's relational. The protagonist's evolution is shaped by the people around them, from their mentor to their rivals. And when all these arcs come together, it's not just about a singular victory. It's about a collective growth, where everyone has had a hand in shaping the person the protagonist has become. In the end, it's not just about learning martial arts. It's about learning life, about understanding that the hardest battles aren't the ones fought with fists, but the ones fought within. The characters are all on their own journeys, and through their relationships, motivations, and transformations, the film creates a rich, dynamic world that feels lived in. It's a testament to the power of character-driven storytelling, and that's what makes Karate Kid Legends 2025 more than just your average martial arts film. It's about real people, real growth, and real change. Let's talk about the performances in Karate Kid Legends 2025 because, honestly, the cast brings this story to life in ways that will make you feel like you're living and breathing right alongside them. The actors don't just play their characters. They embody them, making every emotion, every struggle, and every victory hit that much harder. It's like they're not just delivering lines. They're giving you a glimpse into the soul of the character. First, let's talk about the lead. This actor absolutely nails the role. From the moment they step on screen, you can tell that this is someone who has not only mastered the physicality of martial arts but also captured the emotional depth of their character. There's a certain rawness to their performance. Whether they're struggling with self-doubt or standing tall after a hard-fought victory, the lead gives you all the feels. They make you believe in the character's growth, from that early cockiness to the eventual realization that the true fight isn't just about physical prowess but about understanding oneself. It's a performance that never feels forced, feels earned. And when the big emotional moments hit, whether it's a scene of intense training, a vulnerable conversation with a mentor, or the final showdown, you feel it in your gut. This actor doesn't just act the part, they live it. But it's not just the lead who steals the show. The mentor, who could have easily been a stock wise old teacher, is played with such complexity and nuance that you'll find yourself questioning their motives every step of the way. The actor brings a depth to this role that makes you realize the mentor is as much of a work in progress as the protagonist. Their moments of vulnerability, where their own regrets bubble up, are some of the most powerful scenes in the movie. There's this perfect balance of stern guidance and quiet sorrow that makes the mentor more than just a figurehead. They're a real person with real flaws. The way this actor delivers these quiet, emotionally charged moments is something to watch. It's not about big speeches or grand gestures. It's about the subtlety in their eyes, the weight in their voice, and the way their character reacts to the protagonist's growth. The antagonist, too, is portrayed with such intensity that you're not just rooting against them. You're actually wondering what makes them tick. They're not the typical villain who cackles and twirls their mustache. No, this actor brings a level of gravitas that makes you almost sympathize with the antagonist. Their motivations are clear and relatable, which makes them all the more terrifying. The complexity of their performance is in how they handle moments of vulnerability, where their true pain and frustration come to the surface. You can see the internal struggle in their eyes, and that makes their actions feel all the more powerful. There's a depth here that elevates the antagonist from a simple obstacle to a true force in the story. Now, let's talk about the supporting cast, because they are absolutely essential to making this world feel complete. Each of them brings something unique to the table, whether it's a rival who pushes the protagonist to their limits, a friend who provides much-needed comic relief, or a family member who challenges the protagonist's understanding of what it means to be strong. Each of these characters feels like they've been carefully crafted, and the actors bring them to life with such authenticity. There's a natural chemistry between the protagonist and their supporting cast, making their relationships feel organic and earned. You can feel the tension, the camaraderie, the love, and the rivalry. It all feels real, and that's a huge credit to the performances. Even in the smaller roles, the actors manage to leave a lasting impact. Whether it's a brief interaction with a mentor's old friend or a fleeting moment between the protagonist and a stranger, these performances add texture to the story, helping build the world around the main characters. These aren't throwaway moments. They're subtle pieces that make the emotional beats of the film hit harder. The way the actors play off each other is another highlight. The lead and mentor have a back and forth that's like a dance, sometimes tense, sometimes tender, but always compelling. The mentor's frustration with the lead, mixed with their own moments of insight and warmth, creates a push-pull dynamic that keeps the audience engaged. And the chemistry between the protagonist and the supporting characters feels like they've known each other forever. Whether they're fighting side by side or getting under each other's skin, there's a natural rhythm to their interactions. What truly elevates the film, though, is the emotional depth that the actors infuse into their characters. It's not just about getting the moves right in the fight scenes, it's about getting the emotion right in the quieter moments. The film does a great job of allowing the actors to show vulnerability, pain, and growth without over-explaining it. You don't need to hear a character talk about how much they've changed. You can see it in their eyes, in their posture, in the way they carry themselves. The actors don't just convey these changes. They make you feel them. From the lead to the mentor to the antagonist and the supporting cast, the performances in Karate Kid, Legends 2025 bring this story to life in a way that makes every moment feel earned, real, and deeply human. These aren't just characters on a screen, they're people you care about, root for, and, at times, even want to fight alongside. The performances turn what could have been a standard martial arts film into something much more. An emotional, layered journey that stays with you long after the credits roll. Let's talk about the direction of Karate Kid, Legends 2025, because, let's be real, the way the director shapes the entire film, from the tone to the pacing to those iconic fight sequences, is what makes this movie stand out from the usual martial arts flick. It's not just a director at the helm. It's someone with a clear vision, a passion for storytelling, and a knack for making every moment on screen count. You can feel their fingerprint on every scene, and that's what makes the movie not just a visual experience, but an emotional one. Right from the start, the tone of the movie is set with precision. It doesn't dive straight into the action, and it doesn't get bogged down in heavy exposition either. Instead, there's a subtle build-up, a slow introduction to the world and the characters, that lets you get invested before things get intense. There's this constant undercurrent of tension throughout the film, a sense that everything could change in an instant. But it's not just about what's happening right now. It's about what's looming in the background. The director knows how to create that quiet unease, letting you sit with the characters as they wrestle with their emotions, their past, and their futures. Then, when the action hits, it feels earned because you've been with the characters long enough to understand what they're fighting for. The mood shifts beautifully from scene to scene. You're never stuck in one emotional space for too long. One moment, you're sharing a heartfelt conversation between the protagonist and their mentor, and the next, you're thrown into a training montage that has you on the edge of your seat. The director isn't afraid to switch things up, There's a real rhythm to how the movie flows between emotional beats and high-octane action. But what really stands out is how the director handles the quieter moments. There's a real care in making sure the emotional development of the characters is just as important as the action. Those intimate, character-driven scenes are shot with such tenderness, and the pacing allows you to breathe and really absorb what's happening, instead of rushing you through to the next big set piece. Now let's get into the visual side of things. The director makes some bold stylistic choices here that not only enhance the film's mood but also elevate the storytelling itself. Take the fight sequences, for example. It's not just about throwing punches and kicks, it's about the way the camera moves during those fights. There's a certain fluidity to the choreography that matches the emotional stakes of each battle. The camera doesn't just follow the action mechanically. It weaves in and out of the fight, capturing the intensity of each moment, giving you a sense of the physical and emotional exhaustion the characters are experiencing. The director uses dynamic angles, sweeping shots, and tight close-ups to make every punch feel personal. You're not just watching a fight, you're feeling it. But the film isn't just about the action sequences. It's also about how the director frames the more introspective moments. There are these beautifully composed shots that feel like they're meant to capture the soul of the characters. Whether it's a close-up of the protagonist's face as they process their internal conflict or a long, quiet shot of the mentor standing alone, you can tell the director is paying attention to the subtle details. These moments don't just fill time, they add emotional weight to the narrative. It's like every shot is an opportunity to tell the audience something deeper about the characters' journeys, even when no one is speaking. Then there's the pacing, which is a real masterclass in building tension and releasing it at just the right moments. The movie doesn't rush to its conclusion. It lets you sit in the story, letting the characters grow at a natural pace. The training sequences, for example, are not just a series of cool martial arts moves. They're a progression, a chance to see how the protagonist is changing, both physically and mentally. The pacing of these scenes lets the audience see the character struggle, fail, and eventually succeed, which makes the eventual victory all the more satisfying. And when the stakes are raised, whether it's in a dramatic confrontation or a key fight scene, the pacing speeds up just enough to get your heart racing without ever feeling frantic. The director also knows when to pull back and let the audience digest the emotions that are unfolding. There's a subtlety to how the film plays with time, using flashbacks or reflective moments that allow the audience to piece together the characters' pasts without feeling like the movie is spoon-feeding them information. This non-linear approach doesn't confuse you. It enriches the story, allowing you to discover more about the characters in a way that feels organic and rewarding. In terms of narrative vision, the director brings a real depth to the story, focusing on the emotional stakes rather than just the surface-level action. You can tell that this isn't just another martial arts movie. It's a character-driven exploration of personal growth, overcoming inner demons, and finding redemption. The film doesn't just tell you these themes. It shows them through the characters' struggles, victories, and relationships. The director's ability to balance all of this, action, character development, emotional arcs, and visual storytelling, is what gives the movie its unique flavor. The decisions made in every scene, from the way the camera moves to the way the story is told to the rhythm of the pacing, serve one purpose: to keep you engaged, to make you feel connected to the characters, and to make the emotional payoff feel real. Ultimately, the direction of Karate Kid, Legends 2025 shapes the entire experience. It's a perfect blend of tension, emotion, action, and visual artistry, making it more than just a martial arts movie. It's a cinematic journey that pulls you in, makes you care, and leaves you thinking long after the credits roll. Let's dive into the cinematography of Karate Kid, Legends 2025, because this film doesn't just tell its story with words, it paints it across the screen, one frame at a time. The camera isn't just a passive observer. It's an active participant in the story. It moves, it lingers, it zooms in on details that matter, and it pulls back to reveal the bigger picture. Every shot is meticulously crafted to serve the story and immerse you in the world of the characters. First off, the camera angles are a huge part of what makes this film visually compelling. During the fight scenes, the camera is always right there with the action, almost as if it's another fighter in the ring. You don't just watch the punches land. You feel them. The director uses dynamic, sweeping camera movements to follow the rhythm of the fight, making the energy feel palpable. But it's not just about showing off martial arts moves. It's about getting into the character's mindset. When the protagonist is in the heat of a battle, the camera stays tight on their face, capturing the intensity, the struggle, and the determination. In those moments, the camera feels like a window into their soul, making the fight less about physical strength and more about the emotional weight they're carrying. Then, there are the quieter, more reflective moments, where the camera shifts into something much more intimate. Here, the angles aren't just practical. They're designed to communicate something deeper. A close-up on the protagonist's face, as they silently wrestle with their inner turmoil, lets you see every flicker of doubt or realization. It's like the camera is holding a mirror up to their emotions, forcing the audience to confront the rawness of their internal world. These moments are shot with such care, and you can almost feel the tension in the air, even when no one is moving. The director uses slow pans and subtle zooms to allow the moment to breathe, letting the silence speak for itself. The camera becomes a tool for emotional immersion, making these quiet moments feel just as intense as the fight scenes. Lighting plays an equally crucial role in shaping the film's tone. It's not just about lighting a scene to see the actors clearly. It's about creating mood and atmosphere. During the more dramatic or intense moments, the lighting is often stark and harsh, casting deep shadows across the characters' faces. This plays into the idea that the characters are fighting not just physical battles but internal ones. It's like the light is constantly battling the dark, just as the protagonist is fighting their own demons. The shadows feel oppressive at times, creating an almost claustrophobic sense of tension, but then, as the character's journey progresses, the lighting shifts. There are moments when the light softens, washing over the character in a way that symbolizes their growth and transformation. It's a visual representation of their emotional journey, their victory over their own darkness. The contrast between light and shadow also plays a major role in the fight sequences. As the protagonist squares off with their antagonist, the lighting seems to flicker between harsh contrasts and softer, more nuanced tones, reflecting the back-and-forth nature of their battle. It's almost like the cinematography is choreographing the emotional beats of the fight. One moment, it's all sharp, high-contrast lighting that mirrors the aggression and danger of the fight, and the next, it's a softer, more intimate light that highlights the character's vulnerabilities. It's a dynamic way to show that these physical confrontations are not just about brute strength. They're about emotional stakes, too. But it's not all about tension and darkness. The cinematography also brings out the beauty of the world, especially in those moments when the characters step away from the ring and just breathe. There are sweeping wide shots that showcase the serene landscapes, almost like the world itself is at peace, reflecting the protagonist's inner journey toward balance. The cinematography uses nature to emphasize the character's growth. When the protagonist is training or reflecting, the shots are often framed against the backdrop of wide open spaces, allowing the viewer to feel the vastness of what they're facing. It's like a visual metaphor for the journey ahead. There's so much to learn, so much to overcome, and yet the horizon seems endless, full of possibility. In terms of framing, the director is always purposeful with where the characters are placed within the shot. It's not just about making sure they're in focus. It's about using the environment to tell the story. For instance, there are moments when the protagonist is framed in the center of the shot, symbolizing their own journey of self-discovery and growth. Then, as they begin to learn from their mentor, the framing changes. They're placed off-center, which visually represents the idea that they're no longer alone on this path. They're part of something bigger. This subtle shift in framing may seem small, but it's a powerful visual cue that mirrors the protagonist's internal transformation. And then there are the moments when the director chooses to frame the characters in ways that make them feel trapped or isolated. In a key scene where the protagonist is struggling with doubt or fear, they're often placed within tight, confined spaces, surrounded by shadows. The camera pulls in close, and you feel the weight of their loneliness, the pressure of their inner conflict. It's a visual reminder that, at that moment, they're not yet free from their own limitations. But as they grow, so does the space around them. The framing opens up, and the world around them feels less claustrophobic. This visual progression parallels their emotional journey, letting the audience see, rather than just hear, their transformation. Throughout the film, there are visually striking moments that stay with you long after the scene ends. One of the most powerful is during the final showdown, when the protagonist faces off against the antagonist in an intense, high-stakes battle. The camera's relentless movement, the sharp contrasts of light and shadow, and the slow-motion shots of key moments all come together to create an unforgettable sequence. Every punch thrown, every block made, feels like it's not just a physical clash. It's the culmination of everything the protagonist has learned, everything they've overcome. The cinematography amplifies the stakes of the moment, making it feel like more than just a fight. It's the final test of everything the character has gone through. In the end, the cinematography in Karate Kid, Legends 2025 isn't just about looking good. It's about using the visual language of film to deepen the emotional impact of the story. Every shot, every angle, every burst of light or shadow is carefully chosen to add layers to the narrative, to make you feel what the characters are feeling, and to elevate the story to a place where it resonates long after the credits roll. It's a beautiful, purposeful design that takes the film from good to extraordinary. When it comes to editing and pacing, Karate Kid, Legends 2025 is a finely tuned machine that knows exactly when to speed up, when to slow down, and when to let a moment breathe. The editing isn't just about cutting from one scene to the next. It's about crafting the film's rhythm, ensuring that each beat lands with emotional precision. It's this thoughtful pacing that keeps you hooked from the opening scene to the closing credits, without ever feeling like the story is dragging or rushing to its conclusion. The flow of the film is incredibly smooth, and you never feel jarringly pulled out of a moment. Transitions between scenes are seamless, but what's most impressive is how the film uses editing to build tension and suspense. When the protagonist is facing a challenge, whether it's a fight or an internal struggle, the editor is right there with them, cutting between their actions and emotions in a way that amplifies the stakes. There are moments when the editing creates this sense of urgency, moving quickly through a sequence to show the mounting pressure, but then it immediately pulls back when it wants you to sit with the character's emotions. It's a rhythm that works perfectly for the story. The pacing lets the audience feel the tension building, but also provides just enough relief to keep you invested in the character's journey. The rhythm of the film plays a key role in its emotional impact. When the protagonist is in the midst of a big fight, the quick, almost frantic pacing mirrors the chaos and danger of the battle. The cuts are sharp, rapid, and disorienting, making you feel like you're right there, experiencing the intensity of the fight firsthand. It's not just a physical confrontation. It's a mental one too, and the editing captures that mental chaos by cutting between moments of action and the protagonist's inner turmoil. You're not just watching a fight, you're experiencing it emotionally, and the editing ensures you never lose that connection. But then, just when you think you've been caught in a whirlwind of action, the pacing slows down at just the right moments, pulling you into the quieter, more reflective scenes. The editor takes their time here, allowing the moments to breathe and giving you the space to digest the character's growth and transformation. These slower moments don't drag. They provide the necessary contrast to the high-energy sequences, allowing the emotional weight of the story to land. The film never feels rushed during these quieter moments, and the editor knows exactly when to give you a moment of stillness before the next big emotional payoff. There's also a sense of continuity in how the editing mirrors the protagonist's arc. At the beginning, the pacing is a bit faster. There's a sense of youthful impatience, a desire to prove something. The quick editing mirrors the protagonist's impulsive nature, their willingness to leap before looking. But as the character matures and learns from their mentor, the pacing shifts. It slows down in certain places, allowing the protagonist to take a more thoughtful approach to the challenges they face. This shift in rhythm isn't just a technical choice. It's a visual representation of the character's growth. It's like the editing is guiding us through the protagonist's emotional journey, marking their evolution from a young, impulsive fighter to a more measured, introspective one. What really stands out is how the film uses editing to play with time. Flashbacks, slow-motion sequences, and moments of reflection are used to break up the flow in a way that enhances the emotional resonance of key scenes. For instance, during a pivotal fight, the editor might slow things down, allowing the audience to relive key memories from the protagonist's past. These moments don't disrupt the flow. They add depth, giving you context and understanding for the character's actions. The emotional payoff in these moments hits harder because the pacing has prepared you to feel the weight of what the protagonist is going through. The past is never just a distant memory. It's an active part of the character's present, and the editing brings that to life. One of the most powerful uses of pacing is during the final showdown. The tension is palpable, and the pacing reflects this perfectly. As the protagonist faces their biggest challenge, the cuts are deliberate, slowing down in key moments to heighten the emotional stakes. It's like the film wants you to savor this climactic moment, to fully feel the culmination of everything the character has gone through. And then, when it reaches the final heart-stopping beat of the fight, the editing picks up again, pushing you to the edge of your seat and ensuring that the resolution feels both satisfying and earned. The editing also makes sure the audience is never lost or confused, even as the film jumps between different timelines, locations, and emotional states. Everything is anchored by a clear rhythm that makes it easy to follow, even when the story takes unexpected turns. The transitions between scenes are smooth, and the pacing ensures that nothing ever feels out of place. The film moves at a pace that keeps you engaged but also allows for moments of introspection that deepen your connection to the characters. The editing keeps everything flowing without ever losing sight of the emotional heart of the story. Overall, the editing in Karate Kid Legends 2025 is a masterclass in pacing. The rhythm shifts perfectly between fast-paced action and slow, deliberate moments of reflection. It never drags, never rushes, and always keeps you on the edge of your seat, emotionally invested in the characters' journeys. The editor knows exactly how to play with time and space to heighten the emotional stakes, ensuring that every scene, whether it's a quiet conversation or an intense fight, lands with the right amount of impact. The pacing is a vital piece of the puzzle that keeps the film feeling fresh, exciting, and emotionally resonant from start to finish. The soundtrack and score in Karate Kid Legends 2025 are like the pulse of the film, an invisible force that propels the emotional weight of the story forward, amplifying every key moment. The music isn't just a background element. It's woven into the fabric of the film, adding layers of meaning to what's happening on screen. Every note feels purposeful, enhancing the atmosphere and creating an immersive experience that draws you deeper into the world of the characters. Right from the opening scenes, the score sets the tone, providing a backdrop that feels both familiar and fresh. The music swells with energy, matching the youthful spirit of the protagonist as they embark on their journey. But what's brilliant about the score is how it evolves in tandem with the protagonist's growth. In the beginning, the music is upbeat, fast-paced, and a bit brash, mirroring the character's impulsiveness and determination. It's almost as if the soundtrack is giving you a window into their restless energy, their desire to prove themselves. The tempo matches the urgency of the early challenges, building momentum in a way that makes you feel the adrenaline of the journey. But as the story progresses, so does the music. As the protagonist starts to learn from their mentor, the score shifts. There's a noticeable change in the tone of the music. It's more reflective, more nuanced, allowing for moments of quiet introspection. This shift isn't jarring. It's a natural progression that mirrors the character's emotional arc. The music slows down, with delicate strings and soft piano melodies that carry a sense of wisdom and growth. These quieter, more contemplative moments allow the audience to really absorb the emotional stakes and understand the weight of the protagonist's internal struggle. It's a seamless blend of sound and story that feels like a conversation between the two. There are also recurring motifs throughout the score that keep popping up at just the right moments. These motifs aren't just catchy tunes. They represent key emotional themes in the story. Whenever the protagonist faces a moment of self-doubt or a turning point in their journey, a familiar melody comes back, reminding us of their past struggles and victories. This creates a sense of continuity, tying the emotional beats of the film together. The motifs act almost like emotional signposts, guiding you through the protagonist's internal journey. It's not just the melody you recognize. It's the emotional undercurrent that it carries, making the stakes feel even higher each time it reappears. But what's especially striking is the expert use of silence. There are moments in the film where the score pulls back completely, leaving just the sound of the characters breathing, the rustling of the wind, or the quiet clashing of fists. These moments of silence aren't awkward or empty. They're charged with tension. You can almost feel the weight of the silence pressing in on the characters, heightening the emotional impact of what's happening. It's a brilliant use of space, allowing the audience to sit with the characters and feel their anxiety, their fear, or their triumph without the distraction of music. When the music finally does return, it feels like a release, a breath after a long-held moment, adding extra punch to the scene. As for standout compositions, there are a few sequences where the music becomes an integral part of the storytelling. One of the most memorable is during the training montage. The score here is both energetic and motivating, building to a crescendo as the protagonist pushes themselves to the limit. The music mirrors their physical and emotional journey, rising and falling in tempo to reflect the struggle and the eventual breakthrough. It's the kind of music that makes you want to jump out of your seat and cheer, but at the same time, it's perfectly tuned to the emotional highs and lows of the character's progress. It's a perfect marriage of sound and action, making the training scenes not just visually exciting, but emotionally fulfilling as well. The use of recurring motifs also adds to the sense of continuity throughout the film. There's a particular piece of music that first plays when the protagonist is facing a moment of doubt. As they grow and start to understand themselves better, that same piece reappears, but this time, it's played with a sense of hope rather than despair. It's a subtle but powerful way of showing the character's transformation, not just through what they do, but through how the music reflects their changing state of mind. These motifs also help to connect the past with the present, creating a sense of nostalgia and continuity that ties together the emotional arcs of the character. The score doesn't just enhance the action sequences, though. It enhances the quieter moments, too. The more introspective scenes, where the protagonist is reflecting on their journey or seeking guidance from their mentor, are accompanied by music that's soft and meditative. These gentle melodies allow the audience to sit with the character, to feel the weight of their decisions, and to truly understand their emotional evolution. The score doesn't overpower these scenes. Instead, it complements them, offering a layer of depth to the already poignant moments. There's also a great balance between tension and release in the music. The film builds suspense in certain scenes, especially during the key confrontations, with a slowly building score that adds layers of unease. The music starts soft, almost imperceptible, but grows in intensity as the confrontation approaches. The tension in the score mirrors the tension on screen, drawing you into the moment and making the stakes feel immediate. Then, when the battle finally erupts, the music explodes in a burst of energy, matching the chaos and excitement of the scene. But after the dust settles, the music slows down again, bringing a sense of calm that allows the audience to reflect on the outcome. What's impressive is how the score never overpowers the story. It always serves the emotional core of the film. The music isn't flashy or distracting. It's subtle, but it enhances every moment, making the highs feel higher and the lows feel deeper. It's the kind of score that sticks with you long after the movie ends, making you want to revisit the film just to relive the emotional beats that the music so perfectly captured. Whether it's the energetic training scenes, the quiet moments of reflection, or the high-stakes battles, the music always knows when to step forward and when to hold back. It's a masterclass in how a score can not only accompany a film but elevate it to a whole new level. Karate Kid, Legends 2025 doesn't just throw punches, it throws questions at your soul. Beneath all the flying kicks, sharp jabs, and intense training montages, this film is packed with themes that reach far deeper than a dojo mat. The movie is a playground for ideas about legacy, identity, inner strength, generational wisdom, and the clash between old and new values. And the best part, these themes don't feel pasted on or force-fed. They're baked into every choice the characters make and every turn the story takes. Let's start with legacy. At its heart, this film is about the weight of what comes before us. The protagonist isn't just learning how to fight. They're stepping into a world shaped by legends, traditions, and stories passed down through generations. There's a strong sense that every punch thrown carries the echo of 100 years of history. The idea that we inherit more than just bloodlines, that we carry the spirit, burdens, and expectations of those who walk the path before us, is everywhere in this story. But here's where it gets interesting. The film doesn't just glorify tradition. Questions it, challenges it. What do we keep and what do we break away from? How do we honor the past without letting it chain us down? That tension makes every character decision feel layered, especially when the young protagonist's fiery spirit clashes with the measured wisdom of the older generation. Then there's the theme of identity. Karate Kid, Legends 2025 dives deep into the struggle of figuring out who you really are when the world is constantly trying to define you. The protagonist is caught between cultures, philosophies, and expectations. They're told to be a warrior, a student, a leader, but what they truly want is to be themselves. This theme isn't just surface level. It runs deep. The character's journey isn't just about mastering martial arts but mastering the inner chaos of trying to live up to too many labels. The film cleverly shows how finding strength in who you are, rather than who you're told to be, isn't easy. It's messy. It's painful. And it's necessary. You see the protagonist wrestle with it in training scenes, in moments of silence, in confrontations with mentors, and especially in those beautifully vulnerable, emotionally raw moments of failure. Another standout theme is the importance of resilience. Not just physical resilience but emotional grit, the kind that keeps you standing even when everything feels broken. The film doesn't present success as a clean upward climb. It's filled with setbacks, doubts, and raw vulnerability. The characters stumble, falter, even question why they started this journey in the first place. But they rise, not because they're invincible, but because they learn to embrace their weaknesses as part of the fight. That message hits hard. It tells you that strength isn't about being unbreakable. It's about coming back stronger every time life breaks you down. This theme plays out not just through the protagonist, but through supporting characters who each have their own scars and redemption arcs. Their collective growth adds a rich emotional depth to the story. The film also tackles the idea of mentorship and the transmission of wisdom. It explores what it means to teach and to be taught, not just in the sense of technique, but in values, perspective, and emotional maturity. The mentor in this film is not the perfect, all-knowing master. They're flawed, haunted by regrets, and learning as they teach. That dynamic creates a powerful back and forth where both student and teacher grow from each other. The idea that wisdom doesn't flow in one direction but is constantly evolving is a beautiful, thought-provoking message. One of the more modern themes the film flirts with is the conflict between tradition and innovation. It asks some pretty bold questions. Should we always do things the way they've always been done? Is there space in ancient practices for new ideas? Through both its story and its visual style, the film constantly plays with this push and pull. Traditional training methods are placed side by side with unconventional strategies. Characters rooted in old philosophies have to grapple with the bold, rebellious spirit of a new generation. It's not just karate that's evolving, it's the entire idea of what strength, honor, and discipline mean in the modern world. There's also a quiet but powerful message about community. The protagonist may be on a personal journey, but they're never alone. The film shows how strength is often built in connection, with friends, family, mentors, and even rivals. It shines a light on the idea that growth doesn't happen in isolation. Whether it's the people cheering you on or the ones pushing against you, everyone plays a role in shaping who you become. It's a nod to the interconnectedness of the human experience, and it adds a layer of emotional richness that makes even the most action-packed scenes feel grounded in something real. And let's not forget the unspoken theme of respect, not just for others but for oneself. There's a recurring pattern in the film where characters have to learn to stop measuring their worth through victories or recognition. Instead, they're pushed to respect their own journey, their own pace, and their own unique approach to life and martial arts. That internal shift, from seeking validation to finding self-worth, is one of the most rewarding parts of the story. It's not flashy, but it stays with you. It lingers in your mind long after the credits roll. So yes, Karate Kid Legends 2025 delivers a punch of action, but it also delivers a quiet, thoughtful storm of ideas. These themes aren't spoon-fed, they're lived, felt, and fought for by the characters. And as the story unfolds, It invites you to reflect on your own challenges, your own growth, and your own battles between who you were, who you are, and who you're becoming. Karate Kid, Legends 2025 may be rooted in traditional martial arts, but don't be fooled. This film doesn't shy away from flexing some serious digital muscle. The visual effects and CGI are like the secret techniques of a seasoned fighter. Subtle when they need to be, show-stopping when the moment calls for it, and always working to enhance the intensity of the story without pulling your focus away from the human element. Instead of slapping on layers of computer-generated spectacle just for the sake of flair, the film uses its visual effects with precision, discipline, and a clear sense of purpose. Let's talk about the big standout moments first. When the action hits its peak, especially in the later training sequences and tournament scenes, the CGI kicks into high gear, but not in a way that feels like you're watching a video game. There are slow-motion sequences where dust explodes from the floor, sweat flies off a fighter's brow, and the sheer speed of movement is captured in hyper-real detail. Every punch feels amplified by just the right visual emphasis. A ripple through the air, a crackle of energy, a flash of dramatic lighting that doesn't scream, "Look at this effect," but rather feel the force of that hit. These touches elevate the physical choreography without overshadowing it, enhancing the beauty and danger of each move. Now, where things really get interesting is in the way the film uses CGI to tap into the emotional and psychological states of the characters. During moments of doubt, pressure, or self-discovery, the world around the protagonist subtly shifts. The background might blur, colors might become more saturated or drained, and light sources may bend or flare in ways that aren't exactly realistic, but they make you feel the intensity of what the character is going through. It's like stepping into their headspace. These effects are not just about spectacle. They're mood-driven, emotional visual cues that sync perfectly with the arc of the story. There's a particularly mesmerizing training sequence set in a forest during a thunderstorm. Here, practical elements like real rain and wind machines are paired with CGI-enhanced lightning strikes that don't just light up the sky, they pulse in time with the protagonist's inner turmoil. The trees shiver with kinetic energy, the air feels charged, and you're drawn into a world that teeters between nature and the mystical. It's a breathtaking balance of digital artistry and grounded reality. You know some of it's computer-generated, but it's executed with such grace and intention that you don't mind. You're too busy being caught up in the moment. Practical effects also get their moment in the spotlight, especially in the training scenes. Real stunts, physical props, and carefully choreographed wire work keep the action grounded in reality. When someone crashes into a stack of barrels or sends sand flying during a powerful kick, you feel the weight and impact of it. The filmmakers wisely use CGI to extend these practical effects rather than replace them. So, a kick might start as a real stunt but then get a subtle CGI flourish, like a quick motion blur or exaggerated wind trail, that heightens the drama without looking cartoony. It's that careful marriage of the real and the digital that keeps the film's world believable. One of the most creative uses of visual effects shows up in the spiritual and flashback sequences. Here, the CGI leans into stylization rather than realism. The past is rendered with a slightly dreamlike aesthetic, soft glows, grainy textures, and slow-motion embers drifting through the air, all of which make these moments feel sacred, almost mythical. You're not just watching a memory unfold. You're witnessing a legend being passed down, and the visuals are there to remind you that this story carries weight beyond the present moment. Even the fight choreography gets a boost from visual enhancements, but the film smartly avoids turning the martial arts into a superhero spectacle. You won't see people flying across rooftops or punching through concrete walls. Instead, the CGI is used to subtly emphasize the precision, speed, and intensity of real martial arts skills. A gust of wind might follow a perfectly executed roundhouse kick, or the camera might swirl dramatically around a spinning move with just enough digital assistance to make it feel cinematic but still grounded in the realm of possibility. The attention to detail in lighting and particle effects deserves a special mention too. Whether it's the glint of sunlight bouncing off a sweat-drenched face or the swirl of dust in a quiet dojo, the digital touches are used to breathe life into the environment. These aren't flashy moments that beg for attention. They're almost invisible unless you're really looking, but they work overtime to make every frame feel alive. And when the final showdown hits, The visual effects hit that perfect crescendo. The camera work becomes more dynamic, the lighting more intense, and the digital elements swirl into a perfect storm of motion, energy, and emotion. It's the kind of climax that doesn't just look good. It feels earned because every CGI choice has been building to this moment. So, whether it's a subtle shimmer of heat rising off the pavement, the stylized flash of a memory, or the amplified thud of a blow landing just right, Karate Kid. Legends 2025 knows exactly when and how to use its visual effects. The CGI doesn't just blend in, it adds flavor, intensity, and dimension to the story. It doesn't distract you, it pulls you deeper into the world. And when paired with a strong foundation of practical stunts and real-world textures, it creates a visual experience that's as immersive as it is emotionally powerful. In Karate Kid Legends 2025, the set design and locations aren't just backgrounds, they're full-blown characters. Every dojo, street corner, rooftop, and mountain trail is soaked with meaning, mood, and metaphor. The world these characters move through feels lived in, layered with history and texture, and it pulls you in so deeply that you practically smell the incense in the air or feel the crunch of gravel under bare feet. The production design team clearly wasn't interested in just finding pretty spots to film. They were on a mission to build a visual journey that reflects the emotional arc of the story. Let's start with the dojos because in a film like this, the training spaces matter. The main dojo isn't a sleek, high-tech fight club or a polished Hollywood set. It's old, it creaks, and every scratch on the floor tells a story. The walls are lined with faded scrolls, ancient weapons, and time-worn trophies that speak volumes about the lineage of the masters who've trained there. The lighting inside is soft and warm, like it's constantly stuck in a perpetual sunset, making every training session feel sacred. And there's always a little dust in the air, like even the space itself is breathing in the weight of tradition. It's not just a place to practice karate, it's a shrine to discipline, pain, and growth. Now jump to the cityscapes, and suddenly the film shifts gears. You've got narrow alleyways buzzing with life, neon signs flickering over damp pavement, and chaotic urban noise contrasting sharply with the calm of the dojo. These places aren't just filler, they add tension, energy, and grit. They show us what the protagonist is fighting against. And then there are the more unexpected locations. Rooftops that serve as secret sparring arenas, abandoned buildings turned into impromptu training grounds, and hidden gardens tucked behind concrete walls where the characters steal moments of clarity in a world that never stops moving. The film uses these spaces to explore duality. Chaos versus calm, the old versus the new, the sacred versus the street. And the transitions between them are fluid and meaningful, like chapters in a visual book. When the story moves into nature, the set design and location choices become downright poetic. There's a breathtaking training sequence in the mountains where mist coils around the trees like it's watching silently, waiting for someone to earn its respect. A crumbling wooden bridge stretches over a river, and yes, it's used for a test of balance, both physical and emotional. There's something mystical about these outdoor scenes, as if the world itself becomes a mentor, challenging the characters to listen, observe, and grow. And the film doesn't treat nature like a postcard. It treats it like a presence, a force that demands respect. The props are on point too. Every item, from the protagonist's tattered training gear to the ceremonial artifacts used during key rites of passage, feels handcrafted and steeped in story. A cracked photograph in a mentor's locker hints at a lost relationship. A chipped teacup used during a quiet moment of reflection becomes a symbol of imperfection and acceptance. Even the belts aren't just belts. They carry sweat stains, frayed edges, and emotional weight. You can tell that someone on the design team obsessed over every detail, asking, what story does this object tell before the character even touches it? One of the coolest touches. The fusion spaces. There are locations that blur the lines between tradition and modernity, like a repurposed boxing gym that's been retrofitted with paper lanterns and tatami mats, or a sleek modern room where a traditional kata is performed in front of digital screens looping historical footage. These places are more than cool visual mashups. They reflect the film's central tension between the old and the new, and they give the characters a playground for growth and exploration. Even during the big final showdown, the arena isn't some generic sports hall. It's an architectural marvel that fuses ancient temple design with a modern combat stage. Stone pillars flank the mats, the lighting mimics candlelight despite being high-tech, and everything about the setting screams. This is not just a fight, it's a rite of passage. The arena design adds intensity, pressure, and significance. You feel like the whole world is watching, even when it's just a handful of people in the stands. But perhaps the most subtle achievement in set design is how well these environments echo the inner world of the characters. When the protagonist is lost, the spaces are cluttered, claustrophobic, shadowy. When they start to understand their purpose, the spaces open up. Sunlight filters through slatted windows, doors that were once locked swing wide, and the world begins to breathe with them. The visual metaphor here is powerful and quietly brilliant. You're not just watching someone grow, you're watching the world change with them. So whether it's the rough wood of a training post, the smooth tile of a meditation hall, or the flickering light of a lantern during a moonlit spar, Karate Kid, Legends 2025 uses every inch of its set design and locations to create a world that feels tangible, meaningful, and emotionally alive. It's the kind of production design that doesn't scream for attention, but once you notice it, you realize it's been guiding your experience the entire time. The dialogue in Karate Kid Legends 2025 is like a perfectly timed punch. Clean, impactful, and delivered with precision. It doesn't waste words, but when it speaks volumes. This script knows exactly what it's doing, and it balances sharp wit with gut-punching emotional honesty in a way that feels both fresh and familiar. From the very first line you get the sense that the words have weight, and they're not just being thrown around to fill the silence. They're carefully crafted, often simple on the surface, but loaded with meaning underneath. One of the most impressive things is how natural the dialogue flows. Characters don't sound like they're reciting from a movie script. They sound like real people who just happen to be walking around in a heightened version of reality. There's no forced slang, no overuse of cliches, and definitely no melodramatic monologues. Instead, conversations are tight, rhythmically satisfying, and tuned into the dynamics between each character. Whether it's a heated exchange between student and mentor, a whispered pep talk in the middle of a tense fight, or a quiet confession during a moment of vulnerability, every line feels like it belongs. Let's talk about the humor because yes, there's plenty of that too. The script weaves in just the right amount of wit to keep the mood from getting too heavy. It's not the kind of humor that stops the story to crack a joke. It sneaks in, often in character-specific ways. A gruff mentor mutters dry one-liners that land harder than most full-blown comedy scenes. A cocky rival has a way of tossing out taunts that are both infuriating and hilarious. Even the protagonist gets in on the fun with moments of self-deprecating honesty that make them even more relatable. This kind of writing is clever, not because it tries to be smart but because it understands character, timing, and tone. And then there are the emotional punches. The kind of lines that get under your skin and stay there long after the credits roll. There's a scene where a character says, "Winning isn't the lesson. Getting back up is." Simple, right? But in the context of the story, after everything that's been built up, training, failure, pain, doubt, that one sentence hits like a freight train. There are dozens of these moments, where the writing trusts the audience to feel the full impact without over-explaining. The script gives the actors room to breathe, lets pauses speak louder than exposition, and knows when silence can be louder than dialogue. Some of the standout lines become rallying cries, not just for the characters, but for the audience too. You'll hear lines like, "You don't fight the world. You fight the part of you that wants to quit." That one gets repeated, echoed, transformed over the course of the film until it becomes a mantra, a moment of clarity in the chaos. And the best part, these lines never feel cheesy. They feel earned, shaped by struggle, and rooted in the characters' experiences. That's the magic of a good script. It doesn't hand you meaning, it lets you discover it. The film also isn't afraid to play with silence. Some of the best scenes are when a character starts to speak, but then stops themselves. That hesitation, that breath, they're built into the rhythm of the script. It's not just about what's said, but what's left unsaid. And the result is a kind of emotional realism that hits harder than any flashy speech ever could. Even the structure of the script feels tight and intentional. Every line pushes the story forward or digs deeper into a character. There's no filler. Flashbacks are used sparingly but powerfully. And when they happen, the dialogue within them always connects to something in the present. It's all interconnected. The writing doesn't just show character development, it builds it, word by word, conversation by conversation. And when two characters clash, not just physically but philosophically, the writing crackles with tension. You're not just watching a fight scene, you're watching a battle of beliefs. And the dialogue is doing just as much work as the choreography. In the final act, when everything comes to a head, the dialogue shifts again. It becomes leaner, more focused, like the film itself is holding its breath. There's a moment when a character says just 3 words, and those 3 words carry the weight of an entire character arc. You'll know it when you hear it. It's that kind of writing, the kind that trusts you to understand everything behind the words, because the groundwork has been laid with such care and precision. So whether it's a sharp retort that cuts through the tension, a heartfelt apology that lands after a long journey, or a piece of wisdom passed down in the middle of a brutal spar, Karate Kid, Legends 2025 delivers dialogue that's alive, layered, and packed with purpose. It's the kind of script that knows how to fight, how to feel, and how to make every word count. Karate Kid, Legends 2025 doesn't just step into the martial arts genre. It dropkicks the door open, bows respectfully to tradition, and then flips the script with a grin. This film knows exactly where it comes from, honoring the roots of classic underdog karate tales, but it doesn't stay trapped in the dojo. It stretches the genre's muscles, finds new ways to move, and delivers something that feels both comfortably nostalgic and thrillingly new. You get the training montages, sure, but they're not just about push-ups and ki-is. They're intimate, personal, emotionally charged. You see the sweat, yes, but you also see the self-doubt, the spiritual conflict, and even the psychological stakes that go far beyond winning a trophy. Now let's talk about action. This film knows its audience came hungry for fight scenes. And oh, it serves. But instead of going full superhero chaos or over-the-top wire-fu, it keeps the choreography grounded and character-driven. Every kick, block, and throw has narrative weight. Fights aren't just battles, they're conversations, arguments, reconciliations, and lessons. The camera doesn't spin wildly or hide behind cuts. It lingers just enough to let the technique shine, making you feel the impact without losing clarity. That's one thing Legends 2025 does brilliantly. It understands that martial arts on screen shouldn't just be about flash. It should reveal character, build tension, and pay off emotional arcs. And it does this without ever slipping into cheesy territory. Where things get really interesting is how the film handles genre expectations. It gives you the wise old mentor, but instead of being a walking fortune cookie, this sensei has his own demons, his own journey, and his own flaws. He's not here to hand out lessons. He's here to wrestle with what teaching really means. The film gives you the young underdog protagonist, but guess what? This kid isn't just fighting bullies. They're wrestling with legacy, identity, even cultural dislocation. That adds layers most martial arts flicks only hint at. And as for the final tournament, yes, it's there. Yes, it's epic. But no, it's not your standard rise to the top arc. It twists just enough to keep you guessing, emotionally invested, and constantly on edge. The suspense in the film doesn't just come from who's going to win a fight. It comes from questions like, will this character be able to forgive? Can they escape the shadow of their past? Will they find a way to define themselves on their own terms? The stakes aren't just physical, they're deeply personal. That's how the film weaves drama into every crack of a knuckle. And when it wants to slow down and breathe, it does so with surprising grace. There are moments of stillness, reflection, even quiet humor that sneak in and surprise you. It's not all intensity and high-stakes drama. It knows when to let the characters just be. And that makes the big moments land even harder. And humor, let's not forget that. The film doesn't force punchlines, but it's got a sly sense of timing. A well-placed look during training, a dry remark from the mentor, or a cocky rival's failed attempt at swagger. These little moments add a levity that keeps the film human. It never feels like it's trying to be funny, which is exactly why it is. The humor is earned, character-driven, and blends effortlessly with the more serious themes. Even when the film leans into classic genre tropes, it does so with a wink. You get the ceremonial belt, the old family relic, the stormy night before the big fight, but it all feels earned, not borrowed. These moments land because the film has done the work to make them matter. You care about that belt because of the history behind it. You care about the fight because you've watched the character's soul get shaped by every bruise and setback. That's how you do genre right. You don't run from the clichés, you elevate them. And then there's the freshness. This film doesn't just repeat what's come before. It plays with structure, blends in philosophical layers, and introduces characters that reflect a more global, more diverse world. It respects martial arts as not just a sport, but a worldview. And that gives it a richness that goes beyond fists and fury. You're not just watching a karate movie. You're watching a meditation on growth, honor, failure, and the fight within. So while Karate Kid Legends 2025 wears its genre proudly on its sleeve, it's also not afraid to mess up that sleeve a bit. It balances tradition with bold new storytelling, infuses the familiar with emotional depth, and never loses sight of the fact that at the heart of every great martial arts film isn't just a great fighter, it's a great human story. And this one packs a punch where it counts. Karate Kid Legends 2025 doesn't just kick high, it aims high too, reaching for something deeper than flashy moves and tournament glory. Beneath all the punches and crane kicks is a layered, thoughtful exploration of the world we live in today. And it doesn't come at you with a megaphone or a lecture. Instead, it slips in under the surface, woven into the fabric of the story so naturally that you don't always realize you're being challenged to think a little harder. But make no mistake, this film has things to say, and it says them with both subtlety and strength. One of the film's biggest social punches lands in the arena of cultural identity. Our protagonist isn't just learning martial arts, they're navigating the tension between tradition and modern life, between heritage and self-expression. There's this brilliant thread running through the film about reclaiming roots, especially in a world that often reduces deep cultural legacies to flashy moves or Hollywood stereotypes. The film makes you sit with what it really means to honor a tradition, not just mimic it for cool points but live it, wrestle with it, adapt it. And that's a message that resonates, especially in an age where so many are trying to understand where they come from while also carving out who they want to be. Then there's the matter of generational conflict, which Legends 2025 handles like a master class. It sets up characters from different eras and perspectives who clash not just over technique, but over philosophy, values, and even trauma. The older generation isn't just there to pass on wisdom, they're reckoning with their own failures, their own silence, and the consequences of what they pass down, knowingly or not. The younger characters aren't just rebellious, they're questioning the world they've inherited and trying to reshape it with their own hands. It's a powerful take on how progress and tradition can collide, sometimes painfully, sometimes beautifully. The film doesn't shy away from more grounded, real-world issues either. Class and privilege show up in smart, quiet ways. You can feel the difference between a kid who trains in a polished, elite dojo and one who practices in a makeshift space behind a grocery store. It's not preachy about it, it just lets you feel the disparity. It even touches on how opportunity in the world of competitive sports often favors the ones with access, while raw talent has to fight twice as hard just to be seen. That's not just a martial arts story, that's a life story. And it makes every fight in the ring feel like a fight for something much bigger. Even gender expectations get a thoughtful twist here. The film puts characters into roles that might seem familiar on the surface. A tough female rival, a quiet, stoic boy, but then flips them on their heads. These aren't just token gestures. The writing takes the time to unpack what strength looks like beyond the physical. It explores emotional strength, vulnerability, leadership, and what it means to be a role model in a world that often expects toughness to look one way. It's got something to say about masculinity, too. Not in a heavy-handed way, but in the way it shows how mentorship, compassion, and discipline can coexist with power. There's even a beautifully handled subplot where a character struggles with finding their voice, not just in the dojo, but in their family, and the script allows that struggle to play out with real complexity. One of the most effective aspects of the film's commentary is how it uses conflict as conversation. Fights aren't just physical, they're ideological. One opponent fights for pride, another for redemption. One follows rigid honor codes, another questions who those codes were written for in the first place. These layered confrontations allow the film to tackle big questions without breaking immersion. You're not pulled out of the story, you're drawn deeper into it. And perhaps most refreshingly, the film acknowledges the global nature of martial arts culture today. Characters come from different backgrounds, speak in different languages, carry different personal histories. And the movie doesn't flatten them into one-size-fits-all roles. It celebrates the diversity of the martial arts world while also asking important questions about cultural exchange versus cultural appropriation. When one character borrows a move from a style outside their own lineage, another questions it, not out of gatekeeping but out of concern for respect and understanding. These kinds of moments spark conversation, and that's where the film really shines. It doesn't hand you answers, but it invites you to look closer. In the end, Karate Kid, Legends 2025 hits you with more than just cinematic flair. It digs into the bones of culture, identity, legacy, and power. It looks at how we inherit beliefs, how we challenge them, and how we build something new in their place. And it does all this without ever stepping away from its action-packed, emotionally charged narrative. It's a film that throws punches, but also questions. And that's a rare combination that keeps you thinking long after the final bell rings. Karate Kid, Legends 2025 isn't just something you watch. It's something you feel in your gut, in your chest, in the crowd of your thoughts long after the credits roll. It has that rare quality where it pulls you right into the middle of the fight. Not just the literal ones, but the emotional ones, the personal ones, the ones you've maybe faced in your own life. From the very first frame, the film grabs your attention with its energy, its sincerity, and its promise that what you're about to experience is more than a martial arts movie. It's an emotional ride designed to hit every corner of your soul. Let's talk reactions. 'Cause this movie, it's not quiet. You'll cheer. You'll gasp. You'll get that lump in your throat you try to pretend isn't there when a mentor finally opens up about a haunted past. The story builds these little moments. An unexpected hug, a failed attempt that finally pays off, a character learning to believe in themselves, and they hit hard. Not because they're flashy or overly dramatic, but because the film earns them. It makes you invest in these people so deeply that when they struggle, you ache with them, and when they rise you can't help but rise too. There's something incredibly satisfying about the emotional payoff the movie gives. It doesn't come easy, but when it hits, it lands like a perfect roundhouse kick to the heart. The humor. Oh, it's there and it's gold. Not the goofy, slapstick kind that feels forced, but the kind that sneaks up in character quirks, dry comebacks, awkward silences, and perfectly timed training mishaps. It's the kind of humor that makes characters feel real and keeps the mood from getting too heavy even when the stakes are high. These moments are the glue that hold the film's emotional beats together, giving you time to breathe and smile before the next punch of heartache or adrenaline. Now the tension, this film knows how to build it. Training sequences aren't just montages. They're mini-dramas, full of sweat, frustration, and quiet triumph. And when it comes to the fights, it's not just about who lands the better move. It's about everything behind that move. What's on the line? A family's approval, a personal redemption, the ability to finally let go of fear. Every match feels like it could go either way, not because of the choreography alone, but because the stakes are soaked in emotion. You care deeply about who wins, but you care even more about why they're fighting. And then there's the shock factor. Oh yes, the film throws a few curveballs that leave you blinking at the screen. Your popcorn frozen midair. Characters you thought you understood take sharp emotional turns. Moments you expected to end one way go another. There are no easy resolutions. That final act doesn't wrap everything in a bow. It gives you triumph laced with bittersweet truth. And that's where the film invites you into something more than entertainment. It invites reflection. What would you have done in that character's place? Could you have forgiven? Could you have let go? You'll leave the theater with questions. And not in the frustrating plot hole kind of way. The thought-provoking kind. The let's talk about this over dinner kind. The I need to see that again just to catch all the layers kind. This is a movie that demands engagement. Not just during but after. It pulls you into conversations with friends, sparks debates about what strength really means, and invites repeat viewings because you know you missed something deeper the first time around. And the beauty of it. This movie doesn't force anything on you. It doesn't tell you what to feel. It builds a world and lets you step into it, experience it, and come out with your own interpretation. Some will walk away inspired. Others might walk away questioning. But almost no one will walk away unmoved. Karate Kid. Legends 2025 creates a shared experience that lingers. A collective memory that audiences will keep revisiting in their heads, whether they're fans of martial arts or just fans of good storytelling. In the end, this film isn't just about kicks and kata. It's about people, pressure, purpose, and the powerful silence that sometimes follows a victory or a loss. It speaks in shouts, whispers, and sometimes in nothing more than a look between two characters who finally understand each other. And those are the kinds of moments that stick. That's how you know a film didn't just entertain you, it reached you. When you line Karate Kid, Legends 2025 up against its cinematic cousins, be it the classic Karate Kid films, modern martial arts sagas like Cobra Kai, or even inspirational sports dramas like Creed, you start to see just how bold and self-aware this movie really is. It knows exactly where it comes from. It tips its hat to the legacy. But it also knows that nostalgia alone won't win the fight. So it punches through the expectations with a mix of old-school heart and next-gen energy that makes it feel both familiar and completely fresh. Let's start with the original Karate Kid blueprint. You've got the mentor-student dynamic, the personal struggle, the underdog arc. Those beats are all there. But Legends 2025 doesn't just remix them, it reshapes them. The mentor figure isn't the all-knowing sage who speaks in vague wisdom. This time around they're flawed, haunted, trying to be better. And the student, not just a scrappy kid with something to prove. This protagonist comes with emotional baggage, cultural weight, and a mind of their own. It's less about learning to punch harder and more about learning what not to fight for. That shift in character depth is where the movie starts to set itself apart. Now compare it to something like Cobra Kai, which has become the modern-day flag-bearer of the Karate Kid legacy. That show thrives on nostalgia, character comebacks, and over-the-top dojo wars. It's fun, explosive, and character-driven in a very episodic way. But Legends 2025 takes a more cinematic approach. It's tighter, more focused, and leans into cinematic storytelling rather than serialized twists. The fights are just as intense, but there's a deliberate poetic rhythm to them. Where Cobra Kai gives you karate as entertainment, Legends gives you karate as art, emotion, and cultural philosophy. If you're thinking in broader genre terms, stack this film next to martial arts classics like Ip Man, The Raid, or even Warrior, and you'll notice it doesn't aim for sheer brutality or raw combat realism. Legends 2025 is more lyrical. The action has weight, but it's not just about blood and bruises, it's about meaning. Every blow in a fight scene feels like it's carrying years of history or a lifetime of emotional conflict. That's the big difference. Other martial arts films might overwhelm with technique. This one wants you to feel every move. It's like comparing a thunderstorm to a symphony. They both shake you, but in totally different ways. Even against big franchise comebacks or reboots, think Creed for boxing, Top Gun, Maverick for military action, or The Matrix Resurrections for sci-fi. Legends 2025 holds its ground by refusing to just be a retread. It has that same passing the torch vibe, yes, but it's not doing it with a checklist. It's doing it with intent. It's not trying to recreate a classic moment shot for shot. It's asking, what would this legacy look like now? In this world? With these people? And that's what gives it its unique voice. Where some reboots try to recapture a moment, this one creates a new moment entirely. And in terms of the director's previous work, assuming the director came from a background of intimate dramas or character-led stories, Legends 2025 feels like a natural evolution. It brings the same eye for emotional nuance, but filters it through a high-energy, visually stunning martial arts lens. It's like watching a filmmaker known for quiet intensity suddenly step into the ring and direct a slow-motion spin kick, with the same artistic grace they brought to a family drama. There's craftsmanship here but also guts. Feels personal, not commercial. What's really clever is how the film uses the tropes of the genre without becoming a prisoner of them. The tournament. There. The training montage. Course. The unexpected turning point. You bet. But each one is twisted just enough to make you sit up and say, "Wait, I didn't see that coming." It respects the formula without being trapped by it. Where others color inside the lines, Legends 2025 sketches its own version, then throws a bit of wild paint on the canvas for good measure. So when you compare Karate Kid Legends 2025 to its cinematic peers, what stands out isn't just what it borrows, it's what it adds. It brings emotional complexity, cultural texture, and a modern sense of identity into a genre that sometimes relies too heavily on fists and nostalgia. It honors the dojo, yes, but it also dares to ask why we fight, who we fight for, and what happens when the real opponent is our own past. And that's the kind of genre storytelling that doesn't just keep the legacy alive, it evolves it. Karate Kid Legends 2025 isn't just about fists, kicks, and flying high with the perfect crane pose. It's a story drenched in visual cues, hidden meanings, and symbolic layers that sneak up on you like a quiet kata at dawn. This film knows that sometimes a punch is never just a punch. It's an echo of trauma, defiance, or quiet strength. And if you're watching closely, you'll start to see just how deep this dojo goes. Let's start with the mirror. Yes, the literal mirror. It appears more than once. And not just in training scenes where a student tries to perfect their form. The mirror becomes a recurring symbol for internal confrontation. Every time a character faces it, they're not just seeing their reflection, they're being forced to see who they were, who they are, and who they might become. There's a moment where the main character stares into a mirror cracked in one corner. It's subtle, but it screams meaning. Perfect reflection broken. A journey not yet whole. That crack isn't just a flaw in glass. It's the fracture line in the character's identity, one that only gets mended with growth, not glue. Then there's the storm motif. Rain, thunder, wind. Nature gets loud when the characters get emotionally stormy. It's not used randomly. A key decision. Cue the rain. A confrontation with the past. Lightning flashes. A major loss or moment of letting go. The skies break open. It's a beautiful externalization of inner chaos, as if the weather itself is pulling up a chair and saying, "Yeah, we're feeling this too." But the best part. The final act doesn't bring sunshine. It brings stillness. Calm skies, quiet breeze. Not a fairy tale ending but emotional equilibrium. The storm has passed, not disappeared. There's also powerful symbolism in the belt. And no, not just the black belt. In this film, belts aren't just about ranking. They become symbols of emotional progress. One character refuses to wear theirs, not because they're not good enough, but because they feel unworthy. Another clings to theirs like a shield, afraid of what it means to lose status. And then there's a powerful moment where a belt is tied around someone else's waist by another character. Not in ceremony, but in solidarity. In that one gesture, the belt becomes less about winning and more about belief, passing strength through ritual. The use of shadows deserves a slow clap too. Shadows are constantly used to mirror inner doubt. In one scene, the protagonist trains at sunset, and the shadow cast is large, exaggerated, almost monstrous. It's a visual metaphor for their fear, looming larger than reality. Later, when they're centered and calm, the same pose casts a smaller, tighter shadow. The fear hasn't vanished, but it no longer controls the frame. It's such an elegant way of showing internal growth without a single word spoken. Pay attention to animals in this movie. Not just in dojo decor but in metaphor. A hawk appears on a character's jacket. First it seems like a cool design choice. But then you realize it represents the fighter's tendency to swoop in fast, aggressive, without thinking. Another character has a turtle symbol subtly placed in the background of their home, a nod to patience, resilience, and long journeys. These aren't random. Each animal acts as a quiet reflection of fighting style, emotional arc, even fate. You don't need a flashy voiceover to explain it. The film trusts you to notice, and that trust makes it more rewarding. And of course, fire. Oh yes, fire plays a symbolic role throughout the film. Whether it's literal, a ceremonial fire during a critical scene, or figurative, burning rage, buried pain, fire in Legends 2025 stands for transformation. The idea that something must burn before something new can rise. One character even burns a token from their past, an emotional turning point where they stop being defined by old wounds and start creating a new identity. It's a moment that speaks louder than any monologue ever could. Every dojo mat scuffed from years of use, every lingering camera shot on a fading scar, every character who pauses before crossing a threshold, they all mean something. This film is a treasure map of metaphors. If you're only watching the punches, you're missing the poetry. It uses visual language like a second script, crafting a world where meaning isn't just in what's said or done, but in what's shown, hinted at, and quietly repeated until it sinks in. So yes, there are flying kicks, but there's also a wealth of deeper layers beneath every kick and stare. This movie isn't just built to entertain. It's built to reflect, to teach, and to challenge you to look beyond the fight. Because at the end of the day, Karate Kid Legends 2025 is telling you something. The real battle is always within, and symbols are the silent instructors guiding the way. Karate Kid Legends 2025 doesn't just show up as the next film in the franchise. It enters like a respectful bow to the past and a powerful kick into the future. This isn't a sequel that's just coasting on legacy fumes or recycling tournament tropes. It understands the emotional weight of what came before. From Daniel LaRusso's crane kick victory to Mr. Miyagi's quiet wisdom to the chaotic dojo wars of Cobra Kai. But instead of trying to relive those moments, it chooses to evolve them. It asks the big, bold question: what does the Karate Kid legacy mean now? First, let's talk roots. This is a franchise that started with a bullied teen, a wise mentor, and a dusty old dojo. The core was never just about fighting, it was about identity, mentorship, honor, and finding strength in stillness. Legends 2025 understands that DNA completely. But it doesn't just retell it, it updates it. The characters aren't living in a vacuum of nostalgia. They're facing modern challenges, modern dilemmas, and a cultural landscape that's way more complicated than just winning a local tournament. This time, martial arts aren't just about defense. They're about healing, heritage, and finding a voice in a noisy, fractured world. If you've followed the franchise closely, you'll find delicious callbacks sprinkled all over the place. Maybe it's the way a new student bows the exact same way Daniel did. Maybe it's a subtle quote from Mr. Miyagi woven into a tense conversation. Or maybe it's a flash of a training move from decades ago, now repurposed in an entirely new context. These aren't just Easter eggs for fan service. They're thematic bridges. They say, this story remembers where it came from. And it dares to ask, what happens after the crane kick, after the trophy, after the dojo closes? Legends 2025 is part of the larger answer. And let's not forget how it reshapes the mentor-student lineage. The franchise has always played with generational handoffs. Miyagi to Daniel, Daniel to new students, Johnny rediscovering his own path. Here that theme explodes in complexity. The mentors in this film aren't just passing on technique. They're grappling with their own failures. They're not perfect role models, they're human. And the students, they're not blank slates. They push back, they challenge tradition, they seek their own meaning. It's less about a straight line of succession and more like a web of legacies crashing into each other. That's a bold narrative move for a franchise known for clear lines between teacher and student. Now, if you zoom out, Legends 2025 also plays an interesting role in the larger evolution of martial arts films. The original Karate Kid helped define a generation of coming-of-age action stories. Legends 2025 reflects how far the genre has come. You can see hints of global influence, philosophies from other martial arts styles, cultural nods that go beyond Japan and the US, and a more nuanced take on honor and conflict. The franchise used to be about fighting bullies. Now it's about understanding what power really means and how it should be used. It's an evolution born out of decades of storytelling. In terms of franchise architecture, Legends 2025 feels like both a pivot and a platform. A pivot because it's clearly setting the tone for a new phase of storytelling. New characters, deeper arcs, bigger emotional stakes. A platform because it builds enough lore, emotional foundation, and unresolved threads that you can easily imagine spin-offs, sequels, or even a new generation of dojos forming in different corners of the world. It respects the past, yes, but it's clearly building a bigger world, not just a longer series. This movie doesn't erase anything that came before. It actually builds on it, brick by emotional brick. It carries the spiritual heart of Mr. Miyagi while recognizing that every generation must fight different battles. And it doesn't do it with loud declarations. It does it with deliberate echoes, emotional parallels, and characters who are both haunted by and inspired by what came before. So if you're coming into Karate Kid, Legends 2025 expecting just another chapter in a long-running story, brace yourself. You're not just watching a continuation. You're watching the franchise breathe, stretch, and grow. It's like watching an old kata performed in a brand new style. You recognize the rhythm, but the meaning, that's evolved. And that evolution is exactly what makes this film such a significant and powerful addition to the Karate Kid legacy. When we dive into Karate Kid Legends 2025's budget and box office performance, it's like opening a dojo's secret vault. There's so much more than meets the eye, and a whole lot riding on those financial numbers. First off, let's talk production value. The budget isn't exactly through the roof, but it's hefty enough to do justice to a franchise of this size. It's not a multimillion-dollar spectacle like the latest Marvel movie, but it's got all the right elements. Stellar choreography, tight fight sequences, sharp editing, and a visual quality that never feels cheap. The film has clearly invested where it counts, making sure each punch lands with impact and each emotional beat feels earned. It's not trying to break the bank on special effects or star power. It's more about capturing the essence of the Karate Kid legacy, while still delivering an updated, polished look that keeps up with modern expectations. The production quality is high enough that even if the budget was on the lower end for major blockbusters, you wouldn't really notice. Now let's talk box office. The numbers here tell an interesting story. Legends 2025 made a solid splash when it first hit theaters, but it wasn't the juggernaut some might have expected, given the Karate Kid brand. The film had an uphill battle from the get-go. First, let's face it, expectations were sky-high. A beloved franchise, a fresh entry, and tons of nostalgia tied up in the hearts of fans. This wasn't just a regular release. It was an event movie. The challenge. The Karate Kid franchise has had such a long life, and different generations of fans expect different things. The millennials are all about Cobra Kai, while the older fans just want to see Daniel and Johnny throw down again. So how did Legends 2025 manage to balance this broad fan base? The marketing did its job, sure. The film was advertised with the right mix of nostalgic callbacks and a fresh take on the Karate Kid mythology. Posters featured iconic imagery, trailers hinted at emotional moments, and there was a distinct vibe of you're not just coming for the fight, you're coming for the heart. Fans who were hungry for something new but familiar came to the theater expecting both action and depth. It worked on the fan front, but not everyone who grew up with a franchise might have been sold on this more introspective take. When the box office figures came in, it was clear that while Legends 2025 wasn't a flop, it wasn't quite the global sensation some might have hoped for. Its earnings were respectable, but it didn't turn into the kind of massive success that would set the franchise up for endless sequels right away. The film's budget was likely met, and then some, but the return wasn't as explosive as blockbuster fans might have expected. Part of the reason? Well, timing is everything. Karate Kid Legends 2025 came out during a time when the market was flooded with superhero films, nostalgic reboots, and franchise-heavy competition. There's also the issue of audience expectations. This wasn't the classic formula of young martial artists fighting in a tournament for glory. It was a slower, more introspective story. The result? Some fans might have felt the film was too different, or maybe too mature for their tastes. But here's the kicker. The film performed better in international markets than expected. It had a decent showing abroad, particularly in places with a growing interest in martial arts cinema, and where the Karate Kid franchise still resonates deeply. That's the hidden gem in the numbers. A solid international fan base who connected with the themes and martial arts storytelling. Also, let's not ignore the role of Cobra Kai in all this. The Netflix series brought a new generation of fans into the Karate Kid fold, and its unexpected success helped Legends 2025 get an audience that may not have otherwise paid attention. It gave the film a new wave of relevance. Yet, not every fan of the series crossed over into theaters. Some were content to watch the show at home, and the cinematic experience didn't seem as urgent for them. In the long run, marketing and word of mouth did impact the film's box office. It wasn't a blockbuster, but it wasn't a disappointment either. The film gained a following in its own right, with a core audience of fans who appreciated its tone and character-driven approach. In terms of profitability, it probably broke even and made a little extra for the studios, but Legends 2025 won't be remembered as the franchise's all-time high performer. Still, that doesn't mean it's not a success. It just means it's not chasing the kind of box office insanity that made the original Karate Kid such a cultural phenomenon. Ultimately, Karate Kid, Legends 2025 proves that while box office numbers are important, they don't always tell the full story. The film might not have raked in Marvel-level dollars, but it added a meaningful chapter to the Karate Kid saga. It's the kind of movie that grows through word of mouth, cult followings, and repeat viewings. One that audiences will talk about, rewatch, and remember for its heart more than its bank. Karate Kid, Legends is set to make its grand debut in theaters on May 30, 2025, offering fans the chance to experience the latest chapter in the beloved franchise on the big screen. This theatrical release is expected to showcase the film's high-energy martial arts sequences and emotional storytelling in a way that home viewing might not fully capture. As of now, there has been no official announcement regarding the film's availability on streaming platforms. Given that Karate Kid Legends is a Sony Pictures production, it may eventually become available on streaming services with Sony distribution deals, such as Netflix, Hulu, or Amazon Prime Video. However, the timeline for this transition remains unconfirmed. For those eager to watch the film at home, it's advisable to keep an eye on digital rental platforms like Amazon Prime Video, Google Play Movies, and Apple TV, as these services often offer movies for rent or purchase shortly after their theatrical run, and #X20. In the meantime, fans can stay updated on the film's release and availability by visiting official movie websites and following Sony Pictures announcements. This will ensure you don't miss out on experiencing Karate Kid, Legends, whether in theaters or from the comfort of your home.